Welcome to Buckets, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, and this is your series preview episode for the 3 6s in each conference for the first round of the NBA playoffs. Today, we'll talk about the Brooklyn Nets taking on the Philadelphia 76ers, as Joel Embiid will likely be, maybe not, well, probably by then, might be celebrating his first MVP that he so desperately has clamored for. We'll also talk about the Golden State Warriors versus the Sacramento Kings. Can the Kings light the beam and actually knock off the defending champs? We'll get to all that and more. And to do so, today I'm joined by Brandon Anderson, NBA futures analyst, fresh off a conversation where he tried to argue that David Robinson was better than Hakeem Olajuwon, and everyone's really mad at him for it. I'm going to try and not get involved in that. Also joining us for today's show, making his triumphant return to Buckets, the Ringer gambling shows own. I have not slept. I need to note this. The Ringer gambling shows own Raheem Palmer. You know him as I am Rostradamus on Twitter. How you doing, Ra?
I'm good. It's glad to be back. It's always an honor, to work with you guys. I mean, you guys are family at this point. We speak every day, so it's great to be here.
Yeah, sometimes too much. I would say that we have Ra's phone a lot, and then go into conversations. And I'm always like, Ra has to get done with his day, and then be like, "What the happened on my what is this conversation?" All right. So reminder, everything we talk about today can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. You want to check that out, download. You can follow Brandon and Ra in there. I've got stuff up on the playing tournament games. I've got stuff up on the first round series. Got stuff all sorts of places. Reminder as we go through the week, on Wednesday, we're going to do the 2 7s in each conference following the playing tournament games. We're recording this episode on Tuesday afternoon, so we don't know who the 2 7s are. We're going to do those tomorrow afternoon. Those will be in your feed by evening. It'll be me, Brandon, and Jay Money breaking those down. After that, we will have a game one best bets episode. It's going to be all the contributors giving their best bets on the weekend's game one first round appearances. On Friday, Brandon and I are doing a futures episode. We'll break down what we think are the best plays in the future. We're going to ask Ra a few about those things today. We're going to start with Ra's in Philly. So we're going to start with, it's a series. We're going to do it. We're going to watch it. The Philadelphia 76ers taking on the Brooklyn Nets over at FanDuel Sportsbook. The Sixers are minus 800 to win the series. Nets are plus 560 to pull off what would be a pretty incredible upset. Surprised this number is not a lot higher, honestly. Series spread line for this series. The baseline is Sixers minus 2.5 at minus 162. That's the end in 4 or 5 games. Plus 2.5 for the Nets to take at least 2, push it to 7, or win outright is plus 132. We'll go around the table. We'll give our best bets. We'll do the most important thing. We'll talk about player angles, and then we'll do the elevator pitch. Ra, just ask you up front, what's your best bet for this series?
Sixers minus 2.5 games. It's minus 162. I hate all that juice, but I just don't think that the Brooklyn Nets have any shot at winning this series. I mean, a big reason why is because Joel Embiid. I mean, he is having his MVP season, but when you look at the other side of the floor, their best defender is Nick Claxton. Embiid outweighs him by like 65 pounds. Look at the matchup. I mean, it's just he's averaging like 31 points per game against this Brooklyn Nets team. He's going to play more minutes. Their backup is a 6'9" Day'Ron Sharpe. And I just don't think the Nets have too many advantages in this series. I mean, when you look at what do the Sixers struggle with? They struggle with transition defense. The Nets are just 23rd in transition offense since the trade deadline. I think this is a team that's going to struggle to score in the half court. They don't score in transition. I know Mikal Bridges is making his Kawhi Leonard-esque leap, but this is going to be the first time in his NBA career where there's going to be a scouting report on him, and teams are going to be focused on shutting him down. So I think the Sixers win this with relative ease. They should be able to win this in 5 games.
Oh, that's cool. You did a Brandon impression where I asked you for a simple question and a simple answer just to tell me your best bet, and you gave me a solid 90 seconds to 2 minutes on why. Thank you for bringing the Brandon impression to the podcast. So Sixers minus 2.5 is the short answer there. Brandon, what's your best bet for this series?
Well, if you don't like drinking the juice, I'm going to go way off the Brandon radar here. Give me Sixers -1.5, -300 on the juice right there. I don't even care. I don't care about this series. Sixers are going to coast. There's no way this goes more than 6. I don't know if they care enough to do it less than that. So just give me the -300. I do have a prop for the series that'll drink a little more juice the other direction, more Brandon style. We'll get to later.
All right, my best bet for this series is I'm gonna tail Raw here. I'm gonna be with him on this. So it's Sixers -2.5. I'll pay the 162. We'll get into why we like the differentials in value. Raw, you already kind of gave your most important thing about this matchup, and it's the obvious one, which is look, Nick Claxton. I'll say this: matchup data regular season, Joel shot 40% versus Nick. Didn't actually get in that much foul trouble. Like the regular season numbers say that this is not that bad. Nick's so small. Like, he's just so small compared to Joel. And like Dayron is still really raw, and most of the Nets fans I know hate him. And they don't have like a bruiser. Like, they just don't have the bodies. Their roster is built with 1 point guard in Spencer Dinwiddie, 800 wings that shoot threes, and then Nick Claxton. And like, that's all they got. And so, like, you're right. Like, the most important thing here is that this is a series for Joel Embiid to like show off and to feel awesome about himself and strut and fall down 700 times and act like he was fouled despite physically dominating this matchup. It's going to be like an absolute just B show for Joel. That's got to be the most important thing. Like, if we're going to ask that question, I'd love to give a more complicated answer. I don't have one. Like, it literally just is, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do with Joel because they don't have any sort of counter. Brandon, what's the most important thing for you in this matchup?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. Sixers have 4 of the top 5 players in the series, any game. And yeah, literally my notes say Embiid versus no one. This is his dream matchup. This is what Joel Embiid lives for. Bring the trophy out, give it to him mid-game. We got to do the ceremony early. We may not have him around in the playoffs later on to get him the trophy. So let's bring him out, get him his 40 and 15, get the MVP. There's just, like, if you look at the basketball reference position breakdowns by how the Nets field their lineups, and I know that stuff is kind of noisy. After Claxton, obviously, plays all his minutes at center. We got Cam playing minutes at center. We got Dorian Finney-Smith, notably second or third best player sometimes in a series. Dorian Finney-Smith, he might be playing some center in this series. That's a Raheem Palmer throwback on that DFS for you. But if that's the centers we got, if that's the answer to Embiid, I think that we know how the question's going to turn out. So, yeah, Embiid versus no one. That's pretty much it. That's the cap, and there's not much more to do with this series than that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look. So here's the thing: every year that there's a series that we don't see coming, like there's always one that we are just like did not expect that result to happen, especially like in terms of not the series maybe, but at least game 1. There's like been a hand, like there's always that one. I kind of wonder if this might be that one just because the Nets bomb threes. I'll also say this, like, look, if you're going to defend Harden and Embiid pick and roll, the best thing for you to do is switch it. You know, like you switch it and you're like, well, yeah, but then you got a small on Embiid. Okay. I think you switch it and then you immediately double. And we know that Joel struggles with double teams and you try and make him make mistakes that way. You also I think you try and draw offensive fouls. Like there's a path here where I could be like, this might give them a trouble for a game. Like that could be not bad. Yeah. Like I looked at, I don't mind on FanDuel, you can get game 1 series price like money line series and to win the series. Nets to win game 1, Sixers to win the series is plus 470. Don't hate that. Like it wouldn't shock me if the Sixers screwed around and the Nets won game 1 and they reverse swept them. I just don't know that the plus 470 is worth it when you can just wait for game 1, see if the Nets pull off an upset, and then we get all these numbers that we're laying juice on at reduced odds. Because like they win 1 game, their odds of winning 2 go way up. So then we can go back and get -2.5 or Sixers in 5 specifically at a much better price on the gentleman's sweep. Like that to me is maybe honestly a better way to look at it is to do that. Like we all agree Embiid the biggest matchup here. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I made a similar note. Like trying when it's so easy, the thing that I have to try to do is, okay, what's the case? What am I not seeing? What's the other story? When Brooklyn goes up 1-0 or when it's 1-1, how did it get there? You guys know I have to do that. And the logic is Brooklyn bombs threes. They take a ton of 3-pointers. The problem is that's muted by Philadelphia's defense, limits 3-pointers, bottom 5 in the league allowed by 3-point attempts, and Philly's top 5 against 3-point percentage. So if that's like the one strength you have, and then they can kind of take that away or at least limit it, that ruins that a little bit. We do the trap where I do the trap where I try to think, well, here's what I would do if I was the coach. Well, here's what I would do if I was the coach. I think I would say, you know what, Embiid, go ahead, score 50. We can't really do much about you anyways. We're going to play 5 out. We're going to actually play Cameron Johnson at center and DFS at center. We're going to stretch you out, and notably elite defender Joel Embiid, let's see you guard the perimeter all series and chase people around, and we're just going to bomb like 53s and see what happens, because clearly we're getting destroyed in this matchup. Like, this is like a March Madness 4 versus 13. We're just like, okay, we know, but can we steal a game? And so that's why I took the -1.5, because I do think there's an avenue where either from bombing threes or just from the Sixers didn't show up that night. I think it's a path. Is there any chance that they actually play the 5 out and just go crazy? Raheem, you've watched a lot of this team. Could Embiid hold with that?
I actually watched the Nets last week. And they actually went 5 out against Rudy Gobert, and they went 5 out against Karl-Anthony Towns. And late in I think they played last Wednesday, late in that game, Chris Finch said, you know what, we can't play Rudy Gobert because he's unable to capitalize on the other end of the floor. And he's getting bombed with threes. And you saw Karl-Anthony Towns just absolutely dominate the end of that game. And, I'm expecting Embiid to do the same. I think the Sixers are good enough defensively to be able to, slow the Nets down if they went 5 out. It's just you laid out the blueprint. When you look at after the deadline, I think the Nets were 9-1 when they made 15 threes or more, and 4-14 when they did. So, this is the team that has saw their jump shot rate go from 37% to about 45%. So if this team is making threes, obviously they can hang in there, but I just don't see the Nets having an answer defensively. And I think that's the real issue in this series. And there's going to be guys in foul trouble. I think the blueprint for the Nets to win this series, they have to make James Harden a score. They have to say, you know what? Double MB, everybody else score. PJ Tucker, can you hit those jumpers? Tyrese Maxey, can you hit those jumpers? Harden, can you score efficiently coming off of that Achilles injury? I think that's their only hope.
One of the problems I have with the series is this isn't like, okay, the Nets are a flawed team and it's a bad matchup, but they're a good team and they believe in each. Like, there's 2 problems here. Is one, they're under 500 since the trade. They've done better than people expected. Brandon was notably right about the fact that Nets to miss the playoffs was a miss. He tried to warn me off that, and was right on that. But like, they still have been under 500 with a negative net rating. The other thing is that if you're the Nets guys, you're just like, hey, playoff share, cool, and that's about it. Like, you don't know if you're going to be on the team. You don't know if this is going to be your home. You don't know if they're not building around you. You're not their guy unless you're Mikal. Mikal's the only guy that they're like going to build around to whatever degree they can. All these guys, Royce O'Neal, Cam Johnson, Joe Harris, Seth Curry, like Spencer Dinwiddie, all these guys on down the line, like they could all be gone this summer. Like, we just don't know what the Nets are going to do, but we know that it's probably not going to be this version. I don't love that if we're trying to pull off an upset. You need a certain level of belief. Like, their only real chance here from a belief standpoint is like resentment and like, screw these guys. Like, we can hang. Like, we're all good players, and that's about it. So yeah, like I said, it's hard to find an angle on this. You don't want to lock this stuff in and do overconfident, because sometimes these things, like I said, can be random. Don't mind Brandon's -1.5 on paying the extra juice for the insurance on that extra game. Like, Rod, what are the chances that the Sixers screw around here and just mess around enough for this to go 6 or more?
I could see it for game 1. I can't see it over a full course of a series. This is very reminiscent of, the 2019 series, where it's just, game 1. And actually, it's so funny because I actually bet Brooklyn in that game 1. The Nets were actually 8-point underdogs, the same as now. So I'm getting like a lot of deja vu, particularly with the way the Sixers have been playing lately. When you look at the Sixers, the Sixers were 28-8 from December 31st through March 18th. And when Harden injured his Achilles in that Bulls game from March 20th on, and I'm not counting the last games of the season, but they were 4-5 with the net rating of 0.9. So, maybe this team isn't in sync that much, particularly coming off that Harden Achilles injury. And Harden's been terrific this year, but the way they ended the season kind of gave me a little bit of pause.
Brandon, how confident do you feel that I guess here's my question is, do you feel like the -2.5 that we're landing at the -162 is a bad bet?
I don't think it's a bad bet. I guess if I'm being honest, I think it's a worse bet than the one I chose, because basically those were the two that I was picking between. So that should be my answer. If I chose the other one, then I should think that mine is a slightly better version. I just, look, you guys know me from years of this podcast. I don't trust this team. I don't trust Joel, and I don't trust James, and I don't trust Glenn. And I don't want to, if I'm laying the juice anyways, the -160 something, because look, the real answer is I'm just not really going to play much on this. We're giving out a bet because we're a betting podcast. We need to pick a side, but I don't need that much action on a -300 on a series that the real over-under is over-under 1.5 halves of this series. I will actually watch intently. This is when I get to go outside and take a break for the series. It's just, I would rather have the buffer zone, but there's no need for it. This should be Sixers in 3, right? We all think this. They should destroy them. It's a non-match, but who knows? And Philly has kind of played with their food at times. And I would rather, if I'm laying the juice anyways, I'd rather just go all in. And I feel like the -300 is, unless Embiid gets hurt, I feel like I'm already cashed. So if I'm going to do that, I'd rather just lay it and get the cash.
Let's do player angles. So what's a player angle in the series that you think the props market will bear fruit on, Brendan?
All right. So here's my big one. Under 0.5 3-pointers. Benjamin Simmons, -10 million. Okay. So I got a real one. So back to the James Harden thing. James Harden's assists the last couple of years, obviously he's always a season leader in the regular season, and he's usually been around 10.5. The last 2 years, he went from 10.5 assists per game in the regular season down to 8.5 in the playoffs. The numbers have been falling off a little bit. Spencer Dinwiddie, I didn't even realize, if I'm being honest, I did not watch a lot of Nets down the stretch. Spencer Dinwiddie has been lighting up the assist numbers. Last 15 games heading into the playoffs here, Dinwiddie is at 10.9 assists per game. He has at least 11 assists in 11 out of the 15 games. So at FanDuel, our sponsor, you can bet on who will lead the series in assists. Notably, that is total, not assists per game. That matters. Obviously, Harden is the favorite. He just won the assist crown. I like Dinwiddie here, plus 250 to lead the series in assists. He's at 9.1 per game with Brooklyn. That number has gone up lately. And also, I actually like that it's the total assists here. You never know when James might just tweak a hammy or something and sit out a half or even miss a game. And if that happens, it's kind of an auto win too. So what do you guys think about the Dinwiddie assist series leader plus 250?
I don't mind it. I think, from a matchup standpoint, the reason I probably won't play it is they're what do the Sixers get to play drop here? They don't have to be so concerned that they need to switch up coverages unless things get really out of hand. So they're going to live with most of the offensive stuff. The Sixers have a huge offensive advantage here. It's not just Embiid, effective field goal percentage. The Sixers are just way more efficient. So if they're going to play drop, Spencer's going to have that wide open floater lane. And I don't know that I feel like the Sixers are going to prioritize staying home on those threes. And they're definitely not going to, he's not going to be dishing for dunks. He's not going to be dishing for cuts. So my question for you is, where's he going to, what plays is he going to find assists on?
I mean, I think I'd push back on that last statement. I think that he could, if they go 5 out and suddenly now you got Embiid out on the perimeter or something or spacing, part of the hope of that is that you do open up those backdoor cuts and some of the spacing and possibilities to get to the rim and get some assists that way. And I think otherwise too, you just have to hope that he like threw the pass that led to a made 3-pointer and we get the assist that way. Like the numbers have been there. It's just a numbers play for me. That I actually think if I were setting lines based on just looking at what I'm seeing the last couple of months between Harden's injury a little bit and between Dinwiddie's numbers lately, I honestly think I'd make Dinwiddie a favorite, probably like a slight favorite here. So at the very least, I think I'm getting close to a coin flip between them. And I understand if the coin flip feels better taking the Philly side because we all know that they're going to win the series. So you get more assists because you score easily. But if I'm getting a plus 250 on something near coin flip, it's a pretty easy play. This is literally as I was up at like 2:30 last night getting my notes ready for this. This was literally the last thing I did. So last thought in my head, went to bed, woke up. First thing this morning, I have a text from Joe Delera. It's time. Spencer Dinwiddie plus 250 series assist leader. So Joe and I are in this one together. Joe's going to rate it up at Action Network.
Ryan, you got any player angles that you're going to keep an eye on this one?
Yeah, I'm like I've kind of been waiting for this all year. PJ Tucker has really kind of struggled with his 3 ball for much of this season. He hasn't really been great. I mean, it says he's shooting 39%, but when you watch the game, it doesn't seem like he's shooting that well. I mean, he's only taking 1.9 threes per game. He's playing 25 minutes. I expect his minutes to go up. I mean, they got him for the playoffs. And we all know when it comes to the playoffs, he's going to have to hit those open jumpers. And I think, he'll have more than enough opportunities because they're going to sell out on Embiid. They're going to sell out on Harden. And we all know he's been playing with Harden for quite some time, from his time in Houston. So PJ is going to get those looks. So I'm going to be looking to take some PJ Tucker over 3-point shots made.
I like that.
I'm actually going to bet this. I'm going to bet Tyrese Maxey series points leader 50-1.
Ooh.
So here's the thought process. 1, Nets bench, like all of those good defenders are in the starting unit. It's Royce O'Neal, it's McHale, it's Cam. Like all those good wing defenders are in the starting unit. Second unit is Joe Harris, Seth Curry. Those guys, they do not have depth in terms of defense in that second unit. Tyrese is going to eat. Like he's going to absolutely get loose. The other thing here, teams know like big picture and they know how big of an advantage of this is. If the Nets do not steal one of the first 2 games, the Sixers are absolutely going to kick down into cruise control and be like, we got to make sure that the big man's healthy for the next round. Like we got to have Joel in the absolute best condition because like, remember what happened last year is they dominated that Raptors series, but he hurt his thumb and then his face. And like that impacted things greatly from their perspective. The Heat were still going to win that series, but still like there's every reason for them to be conservative. Tyrese, on the other hand, will play. If Harden's resting, Tyrese plays more. Like they're gonna let Maxey get numbers. They're gonna let Maxey run these second units. He may not play in garbage time, but he'll play in like late 3rd, early 4th garbage time. So that's a huge opportunity here for total points. Tyrese, like Joel may even, and plus, I just gotta say it, there's always the injury risk with Joel, right?
Yeah.
And Harden, I don't necessarily know that even if Joel got hurt, I don't know that I would automatically make Harden the favorite then. Like I would still probably lean towards Maxey being more focused on that. So at 50-1, I'm going to take Tyrese Maxey to lead the series in points. That's my long shot. What do you think, Brandon?
If Maxey leads, has the most points, then that means that he's the MVP, right? That's how this works.
Yeah. If he averages more, at least of the series, if he averages more points per game than Joel, then
head to head.
All right, let's move over to the other series, which should be a lot more interesting to talk about. Golden State Warriors, the defending NBA champion Golden State Warriors are a 6 seed and are favored versus the 3 seed Sacramento Kings. Not only are they favored, they're minus 260 to win that series. The Kings are plus 215. The series spread minus 1.5 for the Warriors. So Warriors and 6 or fewer at minus 168. Kings plus 1.5 at plus 136. This is the series I've gotten the most questions about. Let's go around and just give our best bet in a 1-sentence answer. Rob, we'll start with you. What's your best bet for Warriors Kings?
The best bet is to bet the Kings to win game 1, and then you take the Warriors to win the series. So
Okay.
I think that pays. I'm not sure what that pays, but that's
You're doing both together?
um
The
I wasn't planning
parlay,
on doing.
if you don't wait, the parlay for Kings game 1 Warriors series is plus 210.
Okay. I know I wanted to plan on betting the Kings first half and full game, and then try to jump on the Warriors, but I'm not sure if I want to jump on them after game 1, honestly.
Okay. All right. Brandon, what's your best bet for the series?
Okay, so I had 2 in my notes here, and I was just going to lead with one, but I have to do the second one now, considering what Raheem just said, and I'll tell you both. But literally, my second one on my best bets is Warriors to win game 1, Kings to win the series, plus 1100. So I'll explain
Wow.
why when we get there. My lead best bet is at a lot of books, like at FanDuel, you can bet what's the series score after 3 games. My lead best bet is Warriors to lead 2 games to 1 after 3. That's plus 120. So I'll explain. I actually was exactly on Raheem's bet going into this, and then I ended up flipping sides. So we'll get there.
My best bet for this series. Warriors to win game 1, Warriors to win the series, plus 115. That's my best bet. I will also note that I will also be betting Warriors minus 2.5 on the series spread line plus 190. I will also be on that as well. We'll get into all this. Oh boy, where do we want to start here? How do we start this one? Okay. Let's start with Raheem, because very rarely does he go paths like this of mapping a series. Why do you like the Kings in game 1, and why do you still like Golden State?
Okay, I mean, I think the biggest thing, I mean, we already know about, the Warriors' road woes. I mean, like, it's been summed up so many times. I mean, like, they're a 6 seed and they're priced at, like, they open at minus 300.
Okay. In case you're listening to this podcast and you have not heard us every single goddamn week talking about this, I do have the number for you. This to me is the best. There's a lot of great ones. There's 2 things here. One, the best one is that we have data online going back to around 2003 for spreads.
Mhm.
The Warriors are the worst ATS road team in NBA history. If we just like assume there isn't a worse team throughout there probably is. But since at least 2003, the Warriors are the worst road team ATS in history. The second great stat here, they lost 30 road games. Of the 18 teams that have lost 30 road games or more, 17 of them lost in the first round. Out of 18 teams to lose 30 plus on the road, 17 of them lost in the first round. All right, go ahead.
And only the 84 Suns made the conference finals.
Only the 84 Suns made the conference finals.
All right, yeah, so it's just, it's like the Warriors' big advantage is their starting lineup and the preferred starting lineup. They're outscoring teams by 21 points per 100 possessions. But unfortunately, they haven't had that starting lineup together since like February 4th. And, Wiggins is supposed to come back for the series, but we're still not sure if he's going to play. Sacramento starting lineup isn't there yet. But I mean, like, when you look at even beyond the Warriors, it's not just the Warriors who've been struggling on the road. It's been pretty much the entire Western Conference. There's only one team with a winning record on the road in the Western Conference. I think it's the Clippers. So for me, I just think the home court advantage is going to loom large here. And I expect the Kings to kind of just get by on momentum, honestly. So I'm gonna play them in the first half because I think that first half is going to be big, and I'm also going to play them in the full game. So I think over time the Warriors matchup advantages will play out, but I just think right away the Kings, they should be hyped up for this game.
Okay.
And by the way, it's not the Clippers that have the winning road record, just because it's relevant, not to correct you. It is the Kings. The Kings are the team with the winning road record. So relevant here.
Okay. Let me go first, Brandon, and then we'll get to you. Let me go second. I love Warriors in this game 1. It's gonna be one of my best bets on the game 1 pod. Do you remember? I got a comparison for you. Do you remember all the way back? I think it was. I can't remember what year was the first year the Raptors made the playoffs, but the first year,
2014.
yeah. So in 2014, do you remember how hyped that place was? Do you remember how crazy Jurassic Park was? Like they're showing the fans outside. There's so much energy. The Raptors are back in the playoffs. What an unbelievable team. Do you remember what happened? They lost.
Yeah, I remember that.
They lost. The key here is that to me, there is too much pressure on this Kings team. This is an inexperienced, young team in an environment where the fans are going to be so amped up. The fans are not just going to be happy to be there. Like they're going to be in like, we can do this. You guys have been good all year. Light the beam. That's a lot of pressure for this squad. That is a lot of pressure for a Kings team that is in this spot. This stat I found late in the season, I've bandied about on podcasts and various places. This is really important to me. The Kings are 5 points better defensively on the road than they are at home. They have a 118 defensive rating, 29th in the league amongst all home teams. Now, their point differential is better because they have a 121.6 offensive rating. They're killer in terms of the offense at home. However, like what's most likely to get impacted by the playoffs in their first playoff appearance? You're going to be hurried by all the switching and the chaotic energy from the Warriors. You're going to be uptight from all the pressure on you and how many nerves you have for your first playoff game. I love the Warriors in this game. I love this spot. This is absolutely going to be like, how many times have we seen Golden State be in the situation where the other team is hyped? Like Memphis last year, hyped. And the Warriors come in and they grab game one. I love the Warriors to win game one. You mentioned the starters. They're going to play out over the course of the series. Warriors game one, Warriors to win the series. Brandon, your side of this.
Wait, what's the number on Warriors game one, Warriors series? What's the line?
It is plus 115.
Man, you said that earlier,
Wow.
and I thought that surely must be a mistake when the Warriors are favored by so much in the series. That is very tempting, and maybe I might switch my version here. So, okay, so I was where both of you were at on here on game one, and this is I'm going to explain kind of why transition from the Raheem side to the Matt side. So I've been waiting for weeks as I was like thinking and prepping about the playoffs. I mean months. I definitely watched all season, guys. So for weeks as I was getting ready, I was like, okay, Kings game one, Kings at home, Kings with the crowd, light the beam. That first game, oh my gosh, they're gonna obliterate someone. I was dying to get a Kings Clippers matchup. That was going to be my lead bet on everything. Give me Kings everything. Give me the game one. Give me the series. I was just so ready for it. Then we switched, and I was like, well, okay. The Warriors are terrible on the road. The Kings, all the stuff applies. We're good to go. And that's everything Raheem said, all accurate, all made sense. And then I remembered Warriors game ones in playoff series. We all have done this with the Warriors game one in playoff series since the beginning of the title runs. Since that first year, in game one, the Warriors are 21-3 in game one in a playoff series. Now, granted, only 3 of those are on the road. They're usually a home team, but they're also 2-1 on the road. They won in Memphis last year. They won in Houston in 2018. They lost in Toronto in the finals without Durant, by the way. 21-3. Why? Because I'll do my most important thing here. All the focus is going to be on the bombing threes. Both teams are going to bomb threes. We're going to have the shot variance. The Warriors will win with 2-pointers. The Kings defense allows the 4th most 2-pointers in the league at 56%, 23rd worst in the league. The Warriors lead the league in assists. The Kings allow the 3rd most assists. In the 4 games they played this year, the Warriors converted 59.3% of their 2-pointers, 1.19 point per possession. When you start to play the Warriors in a playoff series, the thing we see year after year, series after series, is you get sliced and diced defensively by the back cuts and the motion and all the weird stuff that eventually by like game 3 or 4, you're like, oh, Steph is still moving after that. I got to keep chasing over here. But it takes you a while to catch up to that, especially if you are a horrendous defense that's not good at that stuff anyways. So after all of that, I was like, okay, I have to feel good about the Warriors in the series. I have to like them for game one based on all the game one stuff. So back to my best bets then. So Warriors game one. Why Warriors game one King series? Why Warriors 2-1 series lead? I am unsettled about the direction that the series goes. I don't even know how to explain it logically. Just that we seem like we've locked into like, here we go, baby. Lakers, Warriors, Steph, LeBron, one more time. And I just feel like that seems too easy. It just seems too obvious, and something about it doesn't feel right. Maybe the something, by the time y'all listen to this, maybe the something is my Timberwolves will have knocked off the Lakers and thrown the bracket around. Maybe that's the something. I don't know. Something feels off about it. And I can't shake that these teams are just like the all offense, not much defense, and let's see if the shots fall. And that, Matt, you said with the Timberwolves Lakers thing, it's the no one believes in us. How do you get any less no one believes in us than we are giant dogs as the 3 seed? Like literally, there's never been in NBA history with tracking for odds a bigger top 3 seed underdog in the first round. This is the most no one believes in us spot. So it's not that I think the Kings are winning the series. It's that I like the game one. And if I do, the plus 1100 on could the Kings still win the series, I think is out there. And I actually think though the Warriors would win game one, the other thing we know they do is get overconfident. And if the Warriors go to Sacramento and just crush them and slice and dice and get the game one win, they're going to be like all puffing their chests and, the champs are here. We didn't even need to try in the regular season. We're good to go. Kings, please. And they're going to like show up and lay an egg in one of the next couple of games. And that's why I like the 2-1 series lead best. So it's kind of twisty. That's how I got there and everything.
I mean, I like the 2-1 series lead. Because I do think I'll be on Kings for game 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a sweep. And if I don't think it's a sweep, I shouldn't do Warriors minus 2.5. I should be on Warriors in 5 specifically if I'm going to bet it short. Couple things. I don't know that they are as prone to overconfidence as they were in the first run. Like,
it's fair.
They learned a lot about like the 2016 run. Honestly, taught them a lot about like you cannot get ahead of yourselves. They learned in the most painful way possible.
My biggest thing is that, I mean, is it even fair to handicap them as the same team? I know they have 4 guys from the same core. Well, 3 guys from the same core. I mean, Steph, Draymond.
Right. So like the question,
the rest of those guys are just, and I think it's pretty clear, when you look at how they're performing defensively on the road, that like, how do you, that's my biggest thing. How do I reconcile the fact that they're allowing 119 points per 100 possessions and defensively on the road?
So I think a lot of this is built off of the full season numbers with Wiseman, and you got to throw all of that out, right? We start there. It's just like, look, they played a lot of guys that were not ready, and we know they weren't ready, and that's been proven over time that they're not ready. I'm looking this up right now. Everyone knows the stat about the Lakers or the Warriors 5-man lineup. No Poole. The Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Looney lineup having the best net rating in the NBA as a 5-man lineup. This is actually pretty notable. When we go look on the road, they were 4-10 early in the season when Wiggins was around and that lineup played on the road. However, they were still plus 8.6, and that defensive rating goes down to 114.9. And then when you do Steph, Clay, Poole, Wiggins, Green, the death lineup, right? Or the death pool, whatever you want to call it, that one goes down to 111.5 on the road, but they were still 3-10. So like what we really can take away from this is when they were losing early on the road, when they had Wiggins, it was entirely the bench. Wiggins is back, Wiseman is gone. Like that's how you kind of have to cap this, because that's what we haven't seen. We have this with a lot of teams in the Western Conference. We just haven't seen the Suns enough. We don't know. We just don't know. We haven't seen the Lakers enough. We just don't know. And the Warriors are the same thing, where we haven't seen a non-Wiseman Wiggins team. yet for the Warriors, and that to me matters considerably.
I can see that. I guess like I look at their post All-Star numbers. For me, it's just they're 4-8 since the All-Star break on the road, scoring 117, giving up 116. So it's just I just don't know how much more I can give this team the benefit of the doubt. But the thing that kind of brings me pause on jumping in on the Kings is that I recognize that playoff basketball and regular season basketball is two different things. And I've gotten burnt by it so many times. When you look at James Harden's career, you look at the 2017-18 Raptors that won 59 games and got swept by LeBron, the 2014-15 Atlanta Hawks that won 62 games and got swept by LeBron. So on one hand, I have these regular season numbers telling me that, the Kings are to play. On the other hand, I have, 7 years of data and, that's just telling me that the Golden State Warriors, that when it matters, that they'll turn it on. So
I got one more for you.
mm-hmm.
Post All-Star on the road, Steph, Clay, Draymond, Looney. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That 4-man combo, 4-6. So they still lost, right? Because some of the wonkiness towards late in the season, but they did lose. They had a sub 500 road record, but they were plus 19.3 with a 99.6 defensive rating. Like, this to me is like a crucial part of it. Is I talked about this in the Cavs series. I'm going to go back to it. The best players play more. They're not resting guys anymore. They're not minutes managing. And honestly, I'll say this. I think the Warriors know how thin their margin for error is. I think they know that they're not good enough to be able to be like, I can't, like, Kerr's got to be in a mode where he's like, look, we want to keep you healthy for the long run, but we're not good enough. Like, you're going to have to play 35, 38. This is just who we are. And so if they're playing the starters more, they're going to have a big advantage. Brandon, you got thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was going to say a couple other numbers on the starters thing. I noticed, like, looking at on-court per 100, on-off rankings, obviously there's context for all that stuff. But a thing that drew me back a little bit on the Kings, they're another team that feels like they've maxed themselves out a little bit in the regular season. Number one, they're super healthy all season. Like, of all the teams in the playoffs, maybe the healthiest team.
Yep.
Yeah. So that means that all the numbers, like, even just they didn't have, like, we're not having Sabonis and Fox out here resting games. They're all playing. Everyone in the rotation that matters plays 72 plus games. So that makes all the numbers rise up, and it makes them a little overinflated. They're 22-26 against 500 teams or better. They're the fewest double-digit wins of any West playoff team. And then the starters thing. Kings starters, if you look down the list, each starter on the court rates about a +2 or a +3 per 100. It's good, but it's not great. Not great compared to the Warriors, especially in those rare times we've seen the starting lineup. Kings bench guys are more like +4. That's where the big advantages come in. And the Kings have been a really good second quarter team and spots where those bench units play. Kings first quarter net rating for the season as the 3 seed, -1.4. They're 19th in first quarter net rating. And so that to me says, you know what? Our starters aren't necessarily creating big separation here. Our starters are not putting this away. It's just that we have our starters every single game. And sometimes you didn't, so we won that game. And our bench has been pretty good. And our starters are always healthy and playing. So the bench is always healthy and at their max. And they're a big advantage. I just think, yeah, all of those things, they feel like they're going to be not the advantage that we had. Like, we've said this about, we talked about that with Knicks, with Cavs, some of these other teams where, yeah, I think the starter thing, it's inflating the net ratings and some of those numbers a little bit, which frankly aren't really that strong anyway for a traditional 3 seed.
Domantas Sabonis played 90 minutes out of 144 in the first 3 games of the matchup. I'm throwing out the last one because Kings were locked. First 3 games of the season series, Sabonis played 90 out of 144. He was a -17.5 in net rating. They got beat by 18 points per 100 possessions, giving up a 123 defensive rating and scoring just 106 when Domas was on the floor. Like,
yeah, I worry too. I do think it's a Kevon Looney series. Like, I think because of Domas, he'll be out there a lot. But I worry about just what can Draymond do to just screw with Sabonis and the Kings offense. Like, And there's not a lot of defense around the Warriors. I've been on that all season, but just Draymond, just against Sabonis and all the actions of what the Kings have done so well, it scares me more than a little bit. So I worry about that here.
What's a player prop play for this series that you like, Brandon?
Yeah, a couple of those just I was mentioning. Looney, I think Looney rebounds. He averaged 11.8 rebounds a game in the 4 games against the Kings. I think he's going to have to be out there a lot because of Sabonis. Sabonis rebounds for sure. In the 3 games he played, he had 50 rebounds. That's 3 games. So that's 16.7 rebounds a game. So Joe Delara, I'm sure, will be playing the Sabonis escalator all series, 13 offensive rebounds. I want Wiggins to play. He played those first 3 games you mentioned, Matt, were all like in the first month of the season. Wiggins scored 24, 25, and 26 in those games. To me, he's the guy. Look, I'm the longtime Timberwolves Wiggins, not what's the opposite of a stan, whatever that is. Wiggins made the leap last year in the playoffs and became that perfect 3-and-D glue guy dude. The thing I talked about with the 2-pointers and the back cuts and the easy looks and the rebounds and putbacks, that's all Wiggins. He's going to just like eat in those spots, play big minutes because he has to, because they don't have the depth if he's ready, get easy buckets. So obviously, I'm not going to jump into the deep end. We need to make sure that his minutes are where we want and everything. But I think that's a good spot too.
I'm going to be on Kevin Huerter 3-pointers made. Warriors defense is pretty good, but the transition defense is where you can find some spots. I think Fox gets downhill on him and finds Huerter quite a bit. And I think that the Warriors in general, but the Warriors will try and contain these kind of things because they try and contain everything. But the Warriors' definite plan is going to be like, we can live with the Kevin Huerter game. We can live with that. So they're not going to help off of him, which is why like it'll be interesting to see what they do and if they feel like they have to bring doubles. Like that's gonna be the question. Is like, can Demonis like force them to bring doubles? I don't think he can, but because these guys are 2 of the best defenders in the league, and Looney and Dre. But it should be interesting. I just to me. It does feel to me like we're going to get Warriors, Lakers. It does feel to me like that's exactly what's going to happen. Maybe that's like the twist here, Brandon, is like we have all this uncertainty and we're going to wind up with exactly what we think when we get through.
Yeah.
All of
I mean, the Lakers still have to get through tonight, which is kind of crazy. But for me, I like Malik Monk overs, particularly on points. I think they don't really have anybody who can really stay in front of him. And the fact that Malik Monk is going to be coming off the bench. He's going to be attacking those second units where, you know, they struggle defensively. And then even when he's in the first unit, Klay Thompson isn't what he was defensively. And I mean, they're going to try to limit Fox from getting in front of him, but Malik's going to have his open looks. So I'm looking at his overs.
There's a book that offers, there's a market that is head to head and you can do combined points. I might do Poole Monk combined over.
Yeah, I had that in my notes also. I think Poole and Monk, both of those guys are extremely dudes that like around from now are like, hey, how come Jordan Poole's not been playing? Well, we know because he doesn't play defense, or Malik Monk if it's Malik Monk. But this series, no one's playing defense and everyone is just running and gunning and scoring. I think Poole and Monk overs for one series is the way to go. I want to hit you guys with a historical comp here. So I was trying to think through, okay, I looked back through like 20 years of the Kings are number 1 on offense, but like 25th on defense, right? Who is the team that's like that? So the 2 most interesting comps that I came up with, the Dirk Nash Mavs. So we're way back now, I understand, but the Dirk Nash Mavs, they fit there. But the one that was really fascinating to me that I think actually makes a lot of sense, 2005 Seattle Supersonics, if that doesn't tell you how far back we are. So this is Ray Allen, Rashard Lewis. Luke Ridnour, Vladimir Radmanovich, spreading it out, running, scoring a lot of points. So those were the 2 teams. I did that separate. Yesterday, Matt, we were talking through, okay, how often is this that we get an underdog seed that's favored in the first round? So 6 times, Matt, what's the website that I'm referring to here? So we cite them. So
sportsoddshistory.com.
Sportsoddshistory.com. 6 times since 1969. We had a first round seed underdog that was favored where it's not a 4-5 matchup. 4-5s are more or less coin flips. You throw those out, there's 6 times where we have like the 6 seed here or lower that was favored. If you go down the list, basically like one of them was a couple years ago, the Nuggets against the Blazers. Well, they were missing Jamal Murray. That's why they suddenly were the underdog in that series, despite the higher seed. We had the Suns against the Lakers 2021. That one had the CP injury, then the brow injury. We had the Blazers 2019 without Yusuf Nurkic. Further down the list, what did I find but the 2005 Seattle Supersonics, the home Supersonics, the team I had found similar to them, playing the Kings. But it was like the late version of the Kings, kind of toward the tail end of that. Here's what's interesting. In those 6 series where the lower seed, the 6-7 seed was the favorite team won the series one time. 1-5 winning the series. The better seed, the Kings in this case, the better seed was 23-13 straight up in those series. However, the Sonics were the one team that actually beat the Kings. The Kings were coming out 4 straight Western Conference Finals there. So it's all a mess, but I thought it was interesting. I don't know if it tells us anything. You got any takeaways?
Everyone having to take sides on the Warriors to me is hilarious, because we're just like it's just really funny, you know, because the non-sports betting, non-probabilistic folks are just like, I'm telling you, like, when they're fully healthy, I believe in the Warriors, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, you know, you have analysts that are like, look, they're not very good. They just haven't been good.
Yeah.
History says they're not going to be any good. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
I wrote this. I can't drink the wine in front of them. I can't drink the wine in front of me. I can't do anything with this Warriors team on a futures basis. I'm taking it series by series, but I'm going to take them in this one. Rob, before we get out of here, I want to ask you, in the futures market, if we look at kind of like the big picture with where the league is at going into the playoffs, I want to get a sense from you of who you like odds wise, number wise in the conferences. And then for the finals, Bucks plus 110, Celtics plus 165, Sixers plus 500, Suns plus 200, Warriors plus 330, Nuggets plus 350, Grizzlies plus 700, Lakers plus 1,000, Clippers plus 1,500, Kings plus 1,800. What are your thoughts on like where the conference value is right now from a betting standpoint?
Well, I know you asked me conference, but I have to give you NBA Finals. I think, you know, Denver Nuggets 11-1 is like downright insulting.
Woo!
Yeah. But I mean, I think conference wise, I think you got to go Denver again. You know, it's absolutely insane to me. You know, this is a team with, you know, home court advantage. I know they haven't looked good for the last month. I think, you know, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for the fact that, you know, they kind of had everything wrapped up. I think they have one easy series to really get it together. But I mean, they're still going to have home court against this Suns team, which, you know, has so much uncertainty. So I would take them at plus 350 and 11-1 to win the NBA title. And then in the East, I think this is frustrating for me because, you know, before Jaylen Brown started to pick up vases, I thought, you know, the Celtics probably had, you know, the most value. This is
So I know what you want to take.
What do I want to take?
I know you want the Sixers team.
I mean, when I look at the 500, it looks so juicy. It really just looks so juicy. But I think that's probably the direction I would lean. I think this is a 3-team race. You know, no offense to the Cavs or the Knicks. I just don't see the Cavs or the Knicks beating the Bucks at all. I think, you know, the best price on the board is definitely the plus 500 with the Sixers. Just Embiid is just playing so well. If Harden's Achilles is not an issue, I think that's going to be a series against the Celtics. I think people are kind of sleeping.
In unrelated news, you can catch Raheem on the Phillies special over on the Ringer podcast network, as well as on the sports or on the Ringer Gambling Show.
I got one follow-up question.
No. Oh, you don't get futures. We're doing that Friday.
No,
buddy.
a question. It's a question. I'm not weighing in. Question, Raheem. If I'm listening and I want the Raheem special, I want you gave out your future. You like Denver. I want to tail your Denver bet. Which one am I doing? Am I playing the West or am I playing the title? AKA, do you like Denver against one of those 3 teams coming out of the East, or do you just want to get them out of the West and then get your money and run?
I always prefer to choose the championship payout just because it's a little bit more. And then I also think, here's the thing. In the East, the Bucks, the Celtics, or the Sixers, they're going to have to play each other. And there's a war of attrition. And I think those are the 3 best teams. And I think, Denver could match up with any of them. I mean, the one matchup that kind of scares me is the Celtics matchup more than any of them. But I would take the 11-1 just because I think this it's mispriced badly.
All right.
Sixers Nuggets finals matchup, by the way, is plus 2,600. Just want to note that 26-1 Sixers Nuggets finals matchup.
And we're full circle right back to David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for buckets for your Tuesday. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Make sure to keep it tuned this week, all throughout the week. We will have game 1 best bets. We'll break down the 2 sevens. We will have futures episode. We will also have a best bets episode for the Friday 8 seed play in tournament games. Once those are set, we'll have those in the feed as well. Make sure to download the Action Network app. You can follow me on Twitter at HB Basketball. You can follow Raheem on Twitter at I am Rostradamus. You can follow Brandon on Twitter at Wheaton Brando. Follow them both in the Action Network app. Raheem, always good to see you, buddy. We miss you over here. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have yourselves a good day, good week. We'll see you again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.